Welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.
Hello and welcome to the MMA Fan Show. I'm Stu Whiffin, joining me always Blake Harrison. How you doing?
Very good, mate. Very good. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. Spoiling them this week, aren't we?
We're spoiling them. You've already had your pre-295, and now look at our faces again. Because we weren't necessarily going to do this. There was these amazing announcements about 3 fights to kick off the 3 first pay-per-views of the year next year. And we were like, well, do we do a thing about that? Don't we do a thing about that? We're not sure. But then we realized we kind of have some interesting news to tell all you listeners and watchers and all that thing. All that thing, that makes no sense. But and we thought, you know what? We'll give you a little bit of news and info that we have about our little show and how things are going to change. And we'll do that alongside an announcement of all of these amazing fights that the UFC are kicking off next year with in January, February, and March at their pay-per-views, and maybe a couple of other little tidbits of news as well. So, Stu, do you want to let the fans know about what changes are going to be made on the show?
Yes, absolutely. So we kind of undenied about how to do this, and we was like, well, do we do this big announcement? And we was like, well, do you know what? Look, we talk to the listeners week in, week out. So let's just have a chat about what we're doing. And because you've been with us from the beginning, and we want to sort of really sort of take it up a level, really. And so we thought we'd just kind of bring you along for the ride and just kind of explain what we're doing. So what we've done is we've built a studio, like a TV studio or a YouTube studio. I don't know if you call them TV studios anymore. A content studio. I don't know. Media studio.
We're old. It's like the wireless studio. Is that what it is? The wireless studio.
And it will be in full Technicolor, not black and white like it was when I was a wee one. But
or like our beards.
Or like our beards, yeah. And so basically we built this studio and it looks amazing. And it's got a big sort of sports desk and a big digital sort of big TV screen behind us, so we can sort of reference points and you know, it's basically going to be like a TV show that you can watch, where Blake and I will be having guests in, and we're going to be having guests kind of coming in on the screen as well if they can't get to the studio. We've already secured some incredible guests that I won't sort of jinx, because we've not filmed them yet.
Jinx it.
But I guess what we're saying is you're still going to get if you're a podcaster, a podcast fan, and you're listening to us, then you're still going to get that. Don't worry, nothing will change there. But we would urge you over the coming weeks, when we start to kind of put content out that we filmed at the studio, to head over to YouTube and subscribe over there and give it a little watch, because we kind of stumbled into this podcast through a sort of chance meeting, and we've just kind of gathered a bit of momentum on it. You know, we've become accredited with the UFC, and we've been so blessed to have got to these events and you know, under the guise of media, and we've got to kind of, you know, be cage side and watch all the action. It's been so much fun, and we've, you know, and Blake's been doing more and more bits and pieces for TNT Sport in the MMA arena, and so it's all just kind of gathered a lot of sort of pace. And it's like, well, look, what can we do with the show to kind of sort of keep up with everything else that seems to be rolling really nicely? Let's take it up a level and try and turn it into something that's a regular watch, where you can see the guests, and it's kind of a bit more like a kind of, I don't know, it's not going to be a breakdown of sort of statistics or anything, is it? It's just going to be much the same as what you're listening to now, but it's going to look a lot more pleasing.
And hopefully we'll get more people face to face, like what we've had with Bruce Buffer, and we had a little small chat with Molly McCann at one point face to face. And I think it just adds something doing it face to face. So don't get me wrong, me and Stu are still idiots, and we still don't know what we're doing. So it's very likely that we're going to get some crazy technical Yes, it's going to be some technical difficulties. Sort of like
leap up in levels of intellect. That's never going to go anywhere.
No. If anything, it'll deteriorate with the older we get. So
there'll be more for us to do. So we can't multitask.
This is prime. You're getting us at our prime right now.
This
It ain't getting better than this.
This
But
is
the
platinum level
visual
shit
quality,
right here.
the visual quality will get better, and the fact that we'll be face to face, hopefully, with a lot of these fighters now will get better. We will still have the ability to, do the old Zoom chats and all that kind of stuff.
And me and you'll be face to face, which we don't do
and
very
me and
often.
you'll be face to face. We don't do very often, and people can see the huge discrepancy in our complexions, with you being this kind of tanned orange Essex man and me being this.
I was going to lean towards bronzed Adonis, but you just kind of didn't go quite as positive there.
No, you look like you've been tangoed, and I look like I need a blood transfusion. That's sort of how we look.
Anyway, look, pipe down, Casper. We can talk about. We can. So that's all coming now. So if you've not been over to our YouTube channel, you can watch all of these chats that we're having there. We put them up in the format of the Zoom video. I would urge you to go and watch the Bruce Buffer one, because that's a kind of representation of the sort of thing that you're going to get. Really high quality recording of a great chat. And but this, moving forward, it will be in the new studio. Head over to our socials, because when this episode drops, we'll put up a little few pictures of the studio, so you can get a look at it as well. And then hopefully, like I say, over the next few weeks, we've got some recordings planned, and then you'll start to see what we churn out from there. And we're really excited, right? You come down the studio, and we had a hangout in there the other day, and we just got we've got a lovely bit of art coming soon. We've got a nice big. I found one of my old UFC posters from the very first UFC event I went to, and sort of dug that out and got that framed, and that's up on the wall. So there's lots of cool stuff. Found my little MMA figures, and also I'll shout him out, and I hope I pronounced this right. It's Yekal Art, Yekal. Yekal Art has designed us an amazing piece of artwork that he's just told me is in the post. So that's going to be going up on the wall as well. And we'll show you all of this, obviously, when everything is rolling and filming. We'll give you a proper studio tour, but ultimately, to go back to where we started, I want you to all be part of the ride. So you're going to see us make mistakes. You're going to see us. I'm probably going to do multiple kind of David Brent, Michael Scott's kind of despondent sort of looks at the camera and not really know what's going on. Well, with me seasoned pro actor next to me knowing exactly what to do. And expect lots of kind of hiccups and glitches, because we are not good with technology, neither of us. So expect to see all sorts of things going wrong. But we'd rather than
I'd be more at home on like an Amish farm than I am in like modern day Britain.
Yeah. So my Amish colleague and I will deliver some. I imagine there'll be more bloopers than actual content, but we want you there for all of it. So that's coming soon. Anyway, that was what we wanted to tell you. But we also want to talk about what the UFC have told us this week, which is some huge fight announcements, right?
Yes. So as usual, Dana White likes to do his "What's up, everybody?" shouting to the camera. I'll get some fights for you bits, and it's actually some good ones. There's some fun ones. Let's start with the first fight, which is January in Toronto. Now, there was a lot of people worried because they thought that the main event of Toronto UFC 297 would be Myra Breno Silva versus Raquel Pennington for the vacant bantamweight belt, because Juliana Pena's injured. That is still on the card. That's the co-main event. But people were like, if that's headlining, they're going to have some problems with the old pay-per-view buys.
Yeah.
In steps Sean Strickland in his first title defense after beating Adesanya against the guy who he should be fighting, not Khamzat Chimaev, although I think had his hand not been injured, he probably would have been involved. But it's not Khamzat Chimaev. It's the rightful number one contender, Dricus du Plessis. This is a really, really interesting fight. Stu, how do you feel about the fight being announced? And how do you feel about the fact that Dricus is actually getting the shot that I feel he deserves?
Little stat for you.
Oh, here we go.
Strickland du Plessis is the first undisputed middleweight title fight in 6 years that doesn't feature Adesanya.
Oh, look at you dropping some knowledge. Oh, Grandad whiffing. I was there when Adesanya didn't even have the belt. There was a young man called Christopher Weidman. No,
Look,
I like that. I like that stat.
I'm happy about this fight. I am. I didn't enjoy Hamzat's last outing, and the
How could you? I see. That's mental. That was a good fight.
Yeah, and the I don't know.
Oh.
I just think
Mr. Stand 'em up. Yeah, go on.
how how bad's that hand? Like, how bad is it?
Well, what I heard was that he tore a bunch of ligaments in it, and I think from my doctorate degree that I have from St Thomas's Hospital, I believe that ligaments take longer to heal than like even bone breaks and things like that. So that's what I've heard on the old grapevine.
So rightfully, Drickus gets the shot, and totally deserves it. You know, he's not the star that Chimaev is. We know that, but he's the rightful fighter to be going for this. I don't really know on this one. I think this is quite an interesting one because, well, we've had to just rewire our brains because Sean Strickland's the champ. And it's a conversation that I've never even considered, that I'm now talking about Sean Strickland's first defense of the middleweight title. It's madness.
It really is.
You know,
can I just put that into? I don't want to interrupt you, but can I just put that into perspective for everyone? like what? So both these guys, because Drickus, all right, was on a win streak, but he was gassing out all over the place and getting lucky to have wins. So 1 year ago today, as far as I'm aware, we look back at these two gentlemen, and Drickus du Plessis was building up to the Darren Till fight, where I can't remember who he'd just beaten beforehand, but it wasn't by no means an amazing performance. It was one of those, again, just smashing forward, maybe gassing out a bit. The Darren Till fight itself that came up after this point, he lost round 2, in my opinion, and then somehow just kept taking Darren Till down, because I think we can all say that Darren Till mentally has not quite been right for a long, long time. Then I think he went out there and defeated Brunson. And then he's had this crazy fight over Whittaker post the nose job. So pre-nose job, Drickus du Plessis a year ago was about to fight Darren Till in a fight where he looked terrible in the second round. Sean Strickland had just been KO'd by Pereira and was building up to a fight with Jared Cannonier that he would go on to lose.
Nuts.
If you'd have said last year, Drickus du Plessis and Sean Strickland are headlining in January of next year, you'd go, that's an Apex main event. But no, it is the headliner of a pay-per-view card in which Strickland is defending the middleweight title. The leaps and bounds that these two have gone on over the last 12 months is absolutely staggering in terms of where they are in their careers.
This is what makes UFC so much fun. You
bonkers.
It feels to me, when you look at boxing, and that there's a bit of a sort of trajectory that you can follow, and a bit of a narrative that you presume is going to play out, because there's very few sort of regular fights, and there's so much money tied up in it, and the story's laid out. Whereas the UFC, like, it is just, let's give the fans what they want. Sometimes let's not give them the fights that are probably on paper should happen. But funnily enough, that is obviously what we're getting with this. We are getting Drickus, which is probably not the fight the UFC would want in that. I'm sure they would much rather have Hamzat, but it's happening. And I don't know. I mean, we know that Sean Strickland's cardio's insane. Like, we know that that's never going to be a problem. We don't know huge amounts about his ground game, and I think we've seen him outstrike. Israel Adesanya, which is
Yeah.
crazy. And yes, he's not built the way that Dricus is built, is he? But he's still got insane knockout power. You know, we see what he done to Pereira. I don't think. I don't know how this fight's going to go. I'm really struggling to make a call on it. I think I don't think Dricus is going to stand and trade with him, because I do think, and I can't believe I'm saying this stuff, Sean Strickland's boxing is really, really good. And I think he's got a good chance of, I don't know, maybe it was just a massive clash of styles against Izzy that just enabled what happened. And maybe Izzy was having a bad day. And I'm not trying to take that much away from Sean Strickland, but I don't know. How do you see him beating Dricus?
Honestly, I don't know. And that's something I'm going to ask you in a bit to rank the 3 fights we're going to talk about in order of your excitement for it. And I think I can talk a little bit more about that then. But I honestly don't know. And I think that's one of the most intriguing things is I don't think we know enough about either of these fighters yet, because Strickland could have made vast improvements over the last year after getting knocked out by Pereira. And we're now seeing a Sean Strickland that is not a reflection of the Sean Strickland we saw before. Dricus du Plessis post nose job could be this cardio machine now, where he was gassing out left, right, and centre beforehand.
And also, we should stress that as much as it was a shock that Sean Strickland done what he done, it was a massive shock that du Plessis done what he done to Robert Whittaker.
Absolutely. And that's why it's like, were both those guys, Izzy and Whittaker, on the decline and these two caught them at the right time? Or are they that good? Have they improved that much? Which is going to be fascinating to see. But let's move on to the second fight, February. There is no location yet, as far as I'm aware, from what I'm hearing from other journalists, we're not journalists, from people in the MMA media space. They're looking at potentially Phoenix, Arizona, or potentially Las Vegas for the February card. Volk versus Topuria. I suppose my immediate question is this too soon for Volk? It's not January. He wanted to fight in January, but is February still too soon for Volk?
I'm presuming if it's late Feb, then I'm imagining he'll get Christmas out of the way, then go into camp. I presume that will be the plan. So that's going to give him another good few months to recover before camp starts. You know, we're recording this early November. I don't think you're going to stop Volk from fighting.
Me personally?
You're not. I mean, you're not. So just don't even consider it, mate.
I don't know, mate. I did a little bit of grappling this morning. I don't know.
Well, and so let's look at Volk, right? He's coming off of 2 losses, right? And
one, because he had the Rodriguez.
Sorry, the Rodriguez fight. So the 2 losses he's had, right, have not been in his weight, you know, his natural weight class, right? So he went up, and arguably, you know, some people say won the first fight with Islam. The last one, you know, you know what happened. It was horrible to see. As big fans of Volk, former 2-time guest of the show. So I'm worried that in that weight division, age starts to catch up with fighters. Now, up until the Islam fights, we was all saying how Volk was pound for pound the best, and you know he's incredible. So I don't want to sort of be too damning on Volk, because I think he's a phenomenal fighter, and I'm going to try and park up what I saw a couple of weeks ago. So in his natural weight, we saw him go back and fight Yair and look amazing, right? So in theory, are we going to see Volk in his natural weight class be the fighter that we've seen Volk perform at that weight for the last, you know, few years? Because he's been phenomenal. What kind of dangers does Ilia Topuria offer that some of the people that he's beaten comfortably don't? Because are we seeing a fighter starting to maybe tip into decline in the latter years versus somebody who is literally approaching the early stages of their peak, because he's looking fucking devastating. And he's so well rounded, as he's Volk. I'm not damning on Volk, because I don't want that to come across. I'm the biggest Volk fan, and nothing would make me happy than seeing Volk beat Topuria. You wonder how much that's going to dent his confidence, that stoppage to Islam. There's so much to talk about. How do you see this one playing out?
Well, I don't know how I see it playing out. I mean, I suppose we'll get into that come when we're doing like the pre-shows and all that stuff. I think for me, the big question is just, is this too soon for Volk? Is, a knockout loss in October, quite a devastating knockout loss as well. Never, ever seen Volk like that, ever. Is 4 months, or maybe slightly less than 4 months, I don't know, but about 4 months, is that enough time to get over such a devastating knockout loss? The talk about the kind of like mental health aspects of everything as well that he had after the fight. And he's going up against a guy that has dynamite in his right hand. He can really lay one on fire. And he's a guy that is at his peak physically. He's an athletic kind of specimen. He has very, very good wrestling. And he's got a really big shot in his kind of like overhand right. Is it something Volk has never seen before? Probably not, no. But the question before every single Volkanovski fight from now on, because he's 35 and because he's in the lower weight classes, every single fight is going to be, is he going to be that half second slower? Is he going to be just that little step off the pace where it just took him a quarter of a second longer to see that punch or slip that punch or whatever, and it hit him? I mean, he said after the Islam fight, oh, I just couldn't pull the trigger. I just couldn't. I found it really difficult to pull the trigger. Now, is that someone that just took a fight on 12 days' notice? That's what I like to think. That's someone who took a fight on 12 days' notice. The sharpness wasn't there. They haven't sparred. They haven't been in there, all that. However, it's not uncommon for fighters to get older and say, I just can't pull the trigger anymore. I can't. So it is possible that we could be seeing, and I don't want to say that. I love Volk, huge Volk fan, but we have to try and be as objective as possible. And there is a world in which he's hit 35 and things are going to deteriorate for him.
Right. Let's ask this question, right? So had they offered him that last minute fight against Islam and he went, no, I've got Topuria.
Yep.
How different would this conversation be?
Oh, very, very. Well, my thing would still be, I don't know how good Ilya is. He's 14-0. Yeah. He's not fought anyone of Volk's pedigree yet, so it's a huge step up for Ilya Topuria.
Who was his last fight against? Who did Topuria beat last time?
Was it Bryce Mitchell or was it Josh Emmett or someone like that?
Josh Emmett. And
before that, was it Bryce Mitchell? Yeah, Bryce Mitchell. Before that, Jai Herbert. Before that, Ryan Hall, Damon Jackson. So no one on that list, no one is even close to Volkanovski's level. We know Volkanovski's beat Max Holloway 3 times. No one's close to Max Holloway's level in that group. So it's a huge step up for Ilya Topuria. So for sure, I'd be saying, well, we don't know. Ilya could do it because he seems like he's a really good fighter. He's undefeated. Yeah. No one's beaten him before. But I would say Volk would be the favorite going into that fight. I think Volk probably still would be the favorite going into that fight. However, now that the Islam fight has happened, now that we've seen Volk beaten twice in the space of a year, albeit in 2 very different fashions, but by the same guy, but seeing him laid out in that way, I think can dent your confidence. It can get into your head. You're fighting a guy with knockout power. And also Ilya Topuria will be going into that fight going, oh, I've got you at exactly the right time. So yeah, it would be a very, very different conversation had we not just seen the Islam Makhachev fight.
Yeah,
but
interesting.
This is the world we're living in, and it's going to be super interesting.
That fight was on 12 days' notice, and he didn't look like he was in shape when he got.
No, he didn't. He looked soft. He looked soft. He was, yeah.
And I think we're going to see I think we'll see a premium level Volk in this fight.
Yeah.
I think because it's shit or bust, really, isn't it? It's like, and I'm not saying that, obviously, he's not going to get cut from the UFC, but, if he loses this, he loses his strap. And you just worry when you hear them kind of words that he was saying in that post-fight conference. You just think, how much would that not help that situation if all of a sudden you're beaten again without a strap? Like, I'm going to remain positive, and I think we're gonna see a rejuvenated, and we're going to see Volk at his weight class doing what he does best.
Yeah. Well, I in the lead up to the Makhachev fight, or was it after the? No, it might have been after the Makhachev. I can't remember. It was either in the pre-show for the Makhachev fight or the post-show for the Makhachev fight. I painted a very bleak picture for Volkanovski, obviously hoping it doesn't come to fruition. But I said we could be looking at Makhachev knocking him out. Then he goes and fights Topuria too quickly, and February still might be too quickly. He gets knocked out again by a guy with a huge right hand, and then he's desperate to claw that back because Volk deserves an immediate rematch. For me, my rule is you defend that belt 3 times, you should get an immediate rematch.
Yeah.
Volk could get an immediate rematch, and we could see him get knocked out in October, knocked out in February, and then he comes back in May or June. I think he'll get knocked out again. Like, that
I can't believe you're saying these words out loud.
I know, but that is a world we could be living in. Like, I'm just saying, I don't want it to happen. I am one of the biggest Volkanovski's fan. I will message Volk and tell him good luck before every fight and congratulations after the fight. And after the Islam fight, I sent him a DM on Instagram and I was like, don't reply to this. But after everything you said, and I sent him a message just, trying to tell him he's not alone. I don't want to go into it too much and all that kind of stuff. But like, I'm a huge Volk fan. He is my favorite fighter.
Yeah.
Both in the cage and out of the cage. He's
Absolutely.
my favorite fighter, and he's been so kind to us. But I feel like my job on here is not to be a Volk fanboy.
Of course.
It's to be an objective observer for the fans so that they get a well-rounded view of what's going on and they get my honest opinions on all this kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that Volk goes out there
anymore, and I just want him to smash the life out of Ilia Topuria. I'm biased, I'm balanced, but I hope he does that.
Sounds very unbiased. But look, we said it just in case he listens. Look, Volk, we love you. Let's move on to O'Malley and Chito Vera. You're rubbing your hands. Should Vera be getting this shot?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Go on. You sell me on why Chito Vera should be getting the shot at Sean O'Malley.
Because, he's got the win over him, right?
Yeah.
And Sugar refuses to acknowledge that.
Okay.
And so I think the narrative is there for a fun. I was watching Ariel the other day, and Sugar's on there, and in the middle of it, as if by magic, Chito rings Ariel, and he's like, "Oh, I've got Sugar in the studio," and then straight away they just fucking go at it. I think what we see here is a really good fight for the fans. I think we're going to see some serious hands being thrown in here. This is the sort of fight I want to see Sugar Sean in, and this is the sort of fight I'd love to see Chito Vera in. I think we're in for an absolute fucking treat with this fight. I am so excited about it. Who do you think should be in there fighting O'Malley?
Merab.
Yeah, but come on.
You know that Vera is 1-1 in his last 2 fights. Only 7 months ago, he lost to Corey Sandhagen. So Vera does not deserve this shot. I love Corey Sandhagen. I'm a huge Corey Sandhagen fan. I really want to see him.
What's his full name?
Former guest of the show, Corey Sandhagen.
Correct.
We look back on that, and it's like Corey Sandhagen He's on a 3-fight win streak. Before that, he got beat by Peter Yan for the interim belt in a really close but good fight. I do think Yan beat him, but it was a good fight. Before that, he was shafted in a split decision against TJ Dillashaw, which, as far as I'm concerned, he absolutely won that fight.
Corey's last outing was fucking drab, though.
No, it didn't. He like smash up his arm mid-fight.
He
and then
done
was like,
what
well,
he
I
had
have
to do to
take him
win,
down.
and it wasn't a spectacle for fans, right? I love.
He did
Corey
something
Sandhagen.
like tore his tricep or something like that, and he still carried on the fight and just dominated, absolutely dominated Vera. Vera had no, sorry, not Vera. Well, he did Vera as well, but Rob Font had nothing for him.
Yeah,
nothing. Sandhagen is a well-rounded guy that can flying knee Frankie Edgar and then just absolutely wrestle the hell out of Rob Font or Chito Vera or whoever it is and just give him nothing.
So that fight happens at some point, right? I think that he fights Sugar at some point. Now, at the moment, we know that like Mirab deserves the shot. Right? We know that, right? But I think when they all sit around that table going, right, okay, so Sugar's the star. He's the star now. Conor, let's just presume that we're not going to see him fight again, right? So Sugar's the face of UFC now. He's the superstar, isn't he? He's the casuals are loving O'Malley. Everything about him screams rock star. So who do we want him to fight? Okay, well, look, who comes and fucking wants it and who's going to really get involved in the trash talk? I know who, and it's Chito. It's not Mirab. Mirab would be a great fight, but I think we know what would happen. Mirab would wrestle, and I don't think the UFC probably wants to see that. And then if he gets the belt, then what happens? Like, because there's always that thing that, well, he's never going to fight Aljo. So I don't know. I'm not.
But Aljo might go up. I mean,
he'll probably go up.
Merab is on a 9-fight win streak.
Yeah.
Merab's on a 9-fight win streak, and he absolutely don't. Sean O'Malley beat Peter Yan in a contentious decision.
Yeah.
Merab dominated 50-45 to Peter Yan. Like, there's again, meritocracy in the UFC is a dirty word.
Right.
It just does not always work. But there is a clear deserving number one contender in that division, and his name is Merab Dvalishvili.
Right. We
Chito
know that.
Vera is 1-1. I get the storyline, but that's not the fight that should be made.
Right. Shoulda, coulda, woulda this, right?
Yeah. Go on. Yeah.
So we're sitting there, right? We've eaten a tube of Pringles, right? We're trying to stay up, right? It's 3 a.m., right? And we've had a couple of beers and we're watching all the action, right?
Yeah.
I'm really getting tired, Blake. Like, what's next? O'Malley Mirab or O'Malley Chito? I know what I'm going to wake up to and what I'm going to be excited about. It's a more exciting fight, Blake, right? Come on.
I hate you, Stu Whiffen, but you are correct. Yes. Yeah. You're right. You are right. It's a more exciting fight. I mean, the other thing is, this is such a huge thing for O'Malley in terms of like, is he the new biggest star in the UFC? Like, if he knocks out Vera, the other thing that's slightly annoying me about this, and one of the reasons I actually want Vera to win, is because I do believe that if O'Malley wins, the bantamweight division, which is so stacked and so brilliant, is going to be just stalled. It's going to be completely held up because I do believe he's going to look for just these big money fights and he's going to try and box and he's going to try and do all these things. And I'm just going to be there looking at the likes of Corey Sandhagen and Merab and a returning Henry Cejudo and, whoever else is in the division, like Jonathan Martinez coming through and all these kind of things. And you're just going to go, well, we're not really going to know who's the best guy in this division because the champion is not going to defend against the best guys. He's going to go and look for boxing matches.
Is he though? Is he?
Because I think he will.
He can chat shit on Rogan and on Ariel about and get into it with these boxers, right? He can do all of that, okay? But apart from Conor, who he's 10 times, 100 times the star that Sean is. the only other boxer that started saying that was a superstar in the UFC that started saying a day no, I want to box. I mean, don't get me wrong. At the time, we thought, what is he doing? And we thought it had all gone wrong. And then we've seen Francis go on to do what he's done, but not in the UFC. I think if they've him nurtured and watered like Sugar to be the star he is, and I don't think they're going to take him to get him at this level now and then go go and box. Like, it ain't going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I think
disagree.
I don't think he's got that kind of clout at the moment. Like,
I think if he knocks out Cheeto, I think he gains a huge level of clout. And then I think the UFC are like, shit, we need to protect this guy a little bit. He's a huge money spinner for us now. Let's try to book him in a way that we keep the money rolling in. And I understand it. It's a business. They've, bought WWF for $9 billion or whatever it is. They got to be making their money back in that, TKO group or whatever they're called now. So, I do think we're going to be in a unique position at bantamweight where it's all going to get a bit muddy and a bit stale and a bit, and so I'd rather see Cheeto win. But this leads us on to a question I had.
Before we do, just one last thing. Do you think Corey beats Sugar?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Sugar's got that equalizer. He's got that skinny man power in his left hand. He's not got that Ngannou Pereira, I'm a big guy that's going to smash you. He's got those long limbs, but somehow he cracks hard, and we've seen him knock people out. We saw what he did to Aljo. He could do that to Corey, but Corey's a cerebral fighter. He's so well-rounded. He's added wrestling into his game. He's long as well. He can match Sean O'Malley in terms of his height and length. To be fair, Vera, I think, can do that as well. And that's a fight that Sean O'Malley had trouble with. Vera could, kick the leg once, remind him about what happened, and go upstairs, and then, Sean O'Malley could get knocked out. I mean, Vera has knocked people out. He is a fun fighter at times, but then equally his Pedro Munoz fight, from what I remember, wasn't the most exciting fight. But anyway, let's... we don't want to take too long on this. This was supposed to be just like a little chatty episode, but I want you to rank your excitement levels for each fight. What's your first, second, and third in terms of the excitement you have for watching these fights?
I'm most excited about Sugar Cheeto.
Really? Why?
Yeah. I just think it will be exciting. He's got on my tits over the years, Sugar. But you can't deny, what he done to Aljo was just like, whoa. And he is a star. And so with that comes lots of hype and lots of excitement. And I think I love watching Cheeto scrap. So this for me is like the big fight for me. What's your number one?
My number one is Volk.
Really?
Yes, I think it's going to be the highest level of mixed martial arts that we see in the cage between those three fights. I think I really rate Topuria. I think he's really, really good. And Volk, it goes without saying, is probably now number 3 pound for pound in the world. I mean, John Jones is an iffy one for me, because if you look at what people have done over the last couple of years, Jones only beat Cyril Gane. But if you look at like the long-term career, then you say Jones should be number one because he's the greatest ever. But it's not about pound for pound, shouldn't necessarily be about what you did many, many years ago. It should be about what's going on now. And I think that Volk going up in weight and giving Islam his toughest ever fight, then coming back down and beating Rodriguez, all right, then losing to Islam, but it was on 12 days notice, man, going up in weight again. And with what Volk's done over the last couple of years in his weight class, I think I would make an argument that Islam's the number 1 pound for pound in the world and Volk's number 2. But however you slice it and dice it, I would say that the two most elite fighters combined that stand opposite each other in the first quarter of next year will be Volkanovski, Topuria. Are we going to see Volk reclaim this kind of mantle of like, I'm the guy at featherweight? Are we going to see something brand new come in with Ilia Topuria and go, Jesus, this guy's incredible. Look what he just did to Volk. I am so excited about that fight. That's my number one. What's your number 2?
The Volk fight.
That's the Volk fight for the
Yeah.
same kind of reasons.
Yeah, pretty much. I think there's just the reasoning what number one is I'm just worried he's going to get knocked out. Like,
Me too.
and
Me
again,
too.
I wouldn't have had that conversation had I have. Do you know what? I probably would have, even Islam fight. You know, if that never happened, because you've just seen the power in Ilya Tapira. But as we've just discussed, you know, there's levels to this game, and he has not been in that octagon with anybody close to the level of Volk. So, yeah, I just don't want to see Volk lose again. I can't handle it.
No, I agree. We're emotionally invested, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this show are, because Volk's a really likable guy.
Yeah.
My number 2 is Strickland Duplessis. That I just really want to know what's happening at middleweight, man. It's just like I don't understand that division anymore. You know, Duplessis smashed Robert Whittaker and finished him in the second round. Strickland, what he did to Adesanya, absolutely crazy. But also that division is going from a division that I think we maybe did like. One of our first episodes was like the state of the middleweight division type episode.
That's right.
And we were talking about like who should get matched up with who and what should be going on. And I think the overall thought was the caliber of this division outside of Adesanya and Whittaker is not great. And I think we're leading up. It wasn't like there was people up in the top 5 and 7, 8 that you're just like, really?
Yeah.
But now we're going to start seeing some changes. And I think, all right, the champions Izzy, Strickland, and he's fighting Duplessis, but Izzy will have to come back at some point. Hamzat is now in there, and he's, you know, probably going to fight for the belt in his next fight, maybe. Aliskerov looks amazing.
Do you think we'll see Pereira come back down?
No, I don't think so. I think he's going to just be a light heavyweight now. I mean, he possibly could if that was there, but I don't think so. I think you got Bo Nickel. What's going to happen with him? Is the hype real with Bo Nickel? Kamaru Usman, is he going to stay at middleweight? Is Strickland actually amazing? Imagine if Strickland went on a 3-4 fight title defense streak. He could do it. Like, what if he did? What if he beat Strickus, which he absolutely could because he's a cardio machine and Drickus has gassed before? What if Hamzat can't quite dominate him in the first? Well, dominates him in the first 7 minutes, and Strickland is still there.
I'd question my existence, and I'd question everything. Like, is this pen reel that's in my hand? If Sean Strickland goes on a 4-fight win streak as the champ, everything in my world would have to be questioned and put under scrutiny.
Sean Strickland is a walking glitch in the Matrix. That's what you're saying. Sean Strickland is like a virus that has got into the Matrix and is just fucking shit up. The algorithms are going mental. They're like, does not compute.
It doesn't compute. It doesn't compute. It's crazy. What I like about this, although it's the one I'm probably least looking forward to out of the 3, I'm still looking forward to it, of course. It's a title fight. And what I'm hoping is, with Drickus, I do think he'll press forward a lot more than what Izzy did. You know, Izzy couldn't work out Strickland, and we saw him not knowing what to do, and I think, and that led to him being quite, you know, on the defensive really, and not really doing what we like to see him do. And so I think we're going to get a much more exciting fight with
Strickland's not a back foot fighter, is he?
Yeah, and
I think they're both going to push forward.
Exactly. So I think that makes for some fireworks.
I think it's either Drickus possibly just marauds forward and knocks him out very quickly, or Strickland does Strickland things and is there for 5 rounds, but towards the end just starts to dominate, maybe even finishes him because of the gas tank issues. So who knows? So my third choice is obviously O'Malley and Vera. That's all I've got left. I still look, it's a good fight. I think the build-up will be fun because I think these two will go at each other a little bit. I just worry about the aftermath. If Sean wins, I just don't. We've discussed it already. I worry for the division. So yeah, that's the one I'm least excited about. But all 3 of them, cracking fights for the start of next year. I'm happy about all of them.
Absolutely. And you will get to be able to watch in full Technicolor Blake and I breaking down them fights pre and post next year from our new studio, which we told you about at the beginning of this episode. So what you need to do right now, just as we start to wrap this up, pop over to YouTube if you haven't already and Google MMA Fan Show, and then a little picture will pop up in a little round circle of me and Blake's heads, and click that, and then click the word subscribe, and then you'll get a little notification just saying new episode, and then you'll get to watch the new studio, and you'll get to see our ugly mugs chatting all sorts of interesting things. We should also let you know, we can let you know this one's coming soon because it's recorded. Blake and I sat down with 10-time Muay Thai world champion John Wayne Parr,
Yes.
and had an absolute, incredible chat with him. We know that you're big fans of Liam Harrison interview, and much like Liam, stories for days. Like,
Yes.
just incredible experiences. Much like Liam as well, moved to Thailand as a very young fighter, and went toe to toe with the Thais to prove his Muay Thai credentials, and he tells a great story, and that is coming very soon. That's all recorded and in the bag. What else, mate? Are we done?
Well, the only other little bit of news, which was very, very surprising, was Tyler Santos has been released from the UFC, which I don't think anyone was expecting that. I mean, Santos on a 2-fight losing streak, but to the former champion in a title fight, Valentina Shevchenko, in a fight that a lot of people were questioning whether Tyler definitely gave Santos the hardest fight of her career. At that point, obviously that was before the Grasso fight, but Tyler Santos, and there was a kind of clash of heads in there that people were referring to and saying that the things changed. So Tyler Santos did that, and then she got beat by Erin Blanchfield. No harm in that. Blanchfield may be the best flyweight in the world at the moment, and I'm assuming Santos was ranked definitely in the top 5, if not in the top 3, and she's now gone. She's left the UFC. She's no longer in the UFC rankings. She has been released. I don't know how many fights she had left on her contract, and it's really interesting. We don't really know why that is. It could be that something's gone on there behind the scenes that we don't know about, and she's had to leave. It could very well be that Tyler Santos has said, I want to leave. I've got more opportunities elsewhere. Maybe she's looking at the fact she's coming off a 2-fight losing streak. She's lost to Blanchfield, who is probably getting a title shot next, if not after a number 1 contender fight, maybe with Manon Fiorot. And maybe she's thinking to herself, I'm not getting a title shot anytime soon. I don't really want to just fight 3-4 more times before getting another title shot. I've got 1 or 2 fights left on my contract. The PFL are doing a flyweight.
You could have them 3 or 4
league.
fights and leave with $1 million.
That's the thing. The PFL are offering that. If the UFC are paying Tyler Santos, like 80 and 80 or something like that, and the PFL says, look, we'll pay you 65 flat rate, no win and loss, 65, but you win those 4 fights that you're guaranteed to have in a year as long as you stay fit and healthy, you've got $1 million on top of that as well. So maybe that's it. I don't know.
I think the sport benefits from these options. I think it grows the sport as a whole. It grows the PFL, and I think that giving fighters options, where they can, because like you say, if she's in that division now, to get that title shot, there's a lot of very hard fights that she could very well lose. That she might just think, do you know what? Have exactly the same amount of fights in another organisation, maybe earn a little less, but the jackpot at the end of it could be completely life-changing.
And the PFL, as far as I'm aware, are more inclined to give you guaranteed money, where the UFC will be like, sorry, when I was saying 80 and 80 there, I'm probably doing my maths wrong. I was like 80 and 80. If you're doing on 80 and 80 for the UFC, but the PFL are offering you like 120 flat rate, no, you're not going to walk away with 160. But equally, if you'd have lost in the UFC, you would have walked away with less. So I think the PFL are more inclined to give you, somewhere in between what you would get from a show and win, but it's flat rate, so you don't have to win. You're guaranteed that money. And I think that's something that the PFL will give you. So I just realized my maths was terrible. I was giving you less for everything than just even a show money on the UFC, but that wouldn't be correct. But yeah, so I can see why fighters would gravitate towards that. If you're guaranteeing money that's more than just your show money in the UFC. All right, if you won, you might have got more, but you guaranteed that. That's maybe a good thing. And as you say, jackpot at the end of it, $1 million, huge money for these fighters. And a lot of them will never get that in the UFC, because even if they're champions, they still have to do well to probably be earning good money. Even from pay-per-view revenue, and be like the top earner and all that kind of stuff. So I can understand it. It's great for the fighters, really good for them, great for the PFL. I'm not sure if it's great for the fans, because obviously Ngannou having somewhere else to go is the right thing. I'm happy for Ngannou. It absolutely should have happened that way. No knock on that whatsoever. But we as fans will never get to see John Jones versus Francis Ngannou now. So doesn't always work out for the fans, but it's the right thing because it's right for the fighters who, you know, they're the ones putting their lives on the line and trying to earn their food and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, look, we'll see you for the post 295 show that will be out early next week. And in the meantime, come on, Tommy Aspinall. Let's get that strap.
Let's go, Tommy.
Right. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.